and good afternoon from Ireland. Welcome to my podcast, Soul Expansion and Inspiration. This is episode 5 and my name is Ali O'Shea. I would like to welcome Karen Anikis to my show. I hope I've pronounced your name correctly, Karen. I should have clarified.
Anikis, yeah.
Welcome to my show today. We're delighted to have you here.
Thanks so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to meet you. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So you were raised Methodist, and you've said to me that you have always known that there was some sort of higher power and that your soul is much bigger than your human form, which is eternal. My dogs are having a little bark there in the background, so just ignore that. Now, very sadly and tragically, your father died on your 9th birthday. Isn't that correct?
Yeah.
Very sad. And you were a Methodist, and you took great comfort in the church, which came to be of great support for yourself, your mom, and your sister during your period of grieving. However, when it came to taking your confirmation classes, you very quickly realized that the vows that were being asked of you to say did not resonate with your own spiritual belief system, and you ended up, in fact, not getting confirmed. Wow. That's
such a rebel.
So tell us, if you would, please, Karen, a little bit more about this story and how all of that unfolded, and how, when your father died, that the church helped you through that.
Yeah, so in many ways, my father dying on my 9th birthday was very much defined who I am. And I think I knew that, from very early on. We woke up that morning, and it was just a, normal day. And my mom said, "I'm going to take your dad to the hospital. He's not feeling well." And so, I remember them getting in the car, and then hours and hours later, my mom came home alone, and my father had died. It was a sudden cardiac event. And so, it was, in many ways, as I said, it defined who I am. It was such a, so sudden. And at the same time that I lost my dad, in many ways I also lost my mom, because she was devastated. And so she kind of checked out and left me and my sister. In many ways, I feel like I raised myself after that point. I mean, my physical needs were met. I never wanted for, anything physically, but my emotional and spiritual needs were left to my own. I was left to my own devices.
How old was your sister at the time?
My sister was 3, almost 3. Oh. Yeah, so she doesn't have any memory of my dad. And I remember feeling responsible for making sure that she remembered him. I would remind her, remember when Daddy did this? And, because I wanted to keep that memory alive.
Yes.
Which is just sad, because that shouldn't be a child's, responsibility. Yeah. But I think my mom just sort of took the wedding ring off, and, we weren't going to talk about that anymore.
Oh, no.
So it was just really hard. And I am still trying to find forgiveness for my mom and some of the decisions she made, and a lot of the things that she did, which obviously affected, her kids. I think she just maybe didn't put us first all the time.
Right. I've got a program on forgiveness that might be able to help you.
Yeah,
It must be very tough. Yeah, it must be very tough.
Yeah. And my mom passed away. My mom's been gone for probably 12 to 13 years, something like that. Towards the end of her life, she died fairly early. She was 62. She had an early onset dementia.
Okay.
And so as I became a young adult, I was trying to work through my grief, but also work through the separation I felt from her. And I wanted her to take responsibility
Yeah.
so that I could forgive her and we could kind of move on. But all that happened sort of at the beginning of her dementia. So I never got that. Never got that from her,
It's interesting that you said to me earlier on, sorry for interrupting, but you said to me earlier on that she checked out. Now, I follow the law of attraction. Obviously, I'm a law of attraction practitioner, and Abraham Hicks says that when people develop Alzheimer's or dementia, it is their way of checking out. So,
yeah. So that
was her way of coping with the situation, no doubt.
And it made me so angry.
Yeah.
I feel badly looking back on it that I couldn't find more compassion for her. But I think I did feel that she brought it on herself, in many ways. So anyway, it's an interesting process to go through, trying to forgive somebody after they're not here anymore. But I am getting to that point. I really am. And being a parent myself, I understand as best I can sort of what she was left with when her soulmate, she loved my father so much. And her whole world revolved around him and, the kids and the family that they had made together. And so I do feel really years.
Oops. You just broke up a little bit there.
Sorry. I was saying I was not able to have compassion for her then, but I am trying to find it now.
Yes,
So,
yes.
Yeah. So anyway, after my father died, the church became really central to our lives for several years. We would go to church every Sunday. We had this tradition where after church we would go out to brunch with a small group of people who kind of took us under their wings, and it was really lovely. And I always found I found a lot of comfort in both the sanctuary of church and the the traditions of the choir, singing together and praying together and all those kinds of things were just, I felt at home,
Yeah.
But when it came time for my confirmation, I went through the classes and I went completely intending to be confirmed.
Yes.
And I remember at the last class, the minister passed around, I think the, creed that we were supposed to say or whatever. We were going to stand up in front of the congregation and we were going to say these things that included, the first one was about sin and turning away from sin and repenting of our sins. And that just, sin has never resonated with me. I have a really hard time when I go to Catholic services. They're so centered around, the sort of sin. We're born into sin. We're born with sin. And I just, no, no, sorry, I'm not buying it. So that was one of them. And then another one was that something like I accept or I confess that Jesus Christ is my Savior, and that I will worship him as Lord. And I just thought, I don't worship people. I just, to me, Jesus was a person, a very enlightened person, but he was a person just like any of us. And he was here to teach. He was a teacher. He was a healer. But I never have, and I still don't elevate him above any other person. Right. So I just, went to the minister and I said, I can't say these things. And he I think he sort of tried to talk me into it, like, well, you can say you can say a little bit, but you don't really have to mean it, kind of thing. And I just, I can't say things that I don't believe are true. I just, I'm just not that kind of person. So he was supportive, but he was clearly disappointed. My mother was so angry. I think she probably didn't speak to me for a few weeks after that.
I can imagine.
I just couldn't do it. I loved so many things.
You had to do what was right for you. Yeah.
Yeah. And I knew that at a very young age. I knew. So, and it's funny, I think I told you this earlier, that in my, 12-year-old child mind, I thought, well, I'm not a Christian. Like, I can't get up and say these things, so that must mean I'm not a Christian, so I must be Jewish. I thought that there were only two options. I don't know. So I explored Judaism a little bit. I had a family member who was Jewish, and but that is I'm sure that that's a religion you can convert to, but it's also, I perceived it then and still do, it's very much more of a culture, and to be raised Jewish, you have to learn Hebrew, and that wasn't happening at 12 or 13. So that didn't last very long, my exploration of Judaism.
And so how did you end up with Judaism then?
I just think I thought that if I'm not Christian, I must be Jewish.
So there was nobody in the family that was Jewish?
There was a relative, not in my immediate family, but there was, I had my mother remarried, and my stepfather had a stepmother who was Jewish. So this is like, twice removed kind of thing. And so she was very kind in, sort of introducing me to some of the Jewish traditions and whatnot. But that also didn't resonate with me either.
So did she get mad with you when you changed your mind about that?
No. I mean, I think that she knew that, I was in an exploration period, and she was very kind to be supportive of that.
Yeah.
As an older teenager and as a young adult, I gravitated back to the Methodist Church, and when I was in college, I went to school at the university in the town where my mother had grown up. And so I actually would attend the church that she and my father were married in. Oh. And so I think that was, again, comforting, meaningful, a sacred place for me. But I am no longer a Methodist. I know that they recently voted, like at the highest Methodist level, that they do not accept gay clergy, and they do not sanction homosexual marriage. And I can't be a part of an organization that is not open and affirming of people of all orientations and
I hear you. You've said that you were greatly inspired by Gary Zukov and consider his book, The Seat of the Soul, to be your Bible. Would you like to tell the listeners a little bit about what this book is about?
Yeah, Gary Zukov has written a number of books, but The Seat of the Soul was his first spiritual book. He wrote a book before that was about quantum physics. And in many ways, quantum physics and spirituality are very much the same. Mm-hmm. And so The Seat of the Soul is, I first saw him on the Oprah show.
Yeah. And
wow, he is such a calming presence, such a, he's very,
grounded.
Yes, very grounded. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, he's just amazing. So The Seat of the Soul basically talks about the fact that, I'm here as Karen Anikis. That's my personality in this incarnation. But there is my soul that is also, that is eternal, and that our purpose as we come into this earth school, he calls it, and we do this a number of times, the purpose is to learn lessons that allow us to expand, and ultimately allow us to have that enlightenment. And different people, everybody's path is unique in their own, and you know, some people only have to come here once in order to reach enlightenment, but others of us have to keep doing it over and over again.
That's true. Yeah, we're all here to learn lessons.
I believe it's a choice. And going back to my father dying, I believe that I chose to have that experience.
Yes.
Yeah, and I've also come to know that my dad is one of my guides, and that he's always with me, always rooting for me. Yeah, so I take great comfort in that. But the soul being eternal, and the soul being like you know, we're sort of an extension, a very little extension of the soul. That just really resonates with me. I find it funny that in church, you know, in religion, we talk about when we die, you know, you do these certain things, we'll go to heaven. And we're also taught that the soul is eternal. But at least in the Christian tradition, we don't talk about the fact that if the soul is eternal, that means that we were here before we were here. You know, like our soul was always here.
Yes.
And so that just made sense to me. It makes sense to me that reincarnation just that truth. And it's kind of like, you know, truth when you see it, you know. And Gary Zukov just, what he teaches is what I know to be truth. And he's one of, you know, many teachers.
Very along the same lines as what Abraham Hicks teaches. You know, we are extensions of source energy. You know, we were source energy before we came into these bodies, and we still are. The larger part of us, in fact, is still source energy. So, you know, it's very similar, and, you know, that we come here for life lessons and to evolve and expand, grow and co-create, and for the joy of the journey and to experience the contrast. We knew we were going to experience this contrast. So yes, I think, you know, you're saying, you know, I believe that I chose my father's experience. You may not have specifically chosen that, but you definitely chose your parents, I believe, before you came into your human body. You chose your parents, for sure.
Right. Right.
That's what I believe anyway. I believe we had a soul contract before we came to Earth.
I do too. I do too.
Yeah.
And I believe that Jesus taught those things too.
Oh yeah.
They didn't necessarily all make it into the Bible, you know.
Well, don't forget the Bible was written and rewritten and rewritten and rewritten and rewritten by humans.
by men, humans, yes. But I think that you know, there were 4 Gospels that were chosen to be in the Bible, but there were many, many more Gospels, and so why those were chosen, and I think that a lot of religion, and I think that religion is very good and serves important purpose in many people's lives, but I also think that a lot of organized religion is about control and controlling people.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so, you know, I like the Bible, but it's certainly not the only book. And I also think that, you know, if you think about Jesus's time and the time that he lived, you know, most people were illiterate, and Jesus taught in parables by telling stories. And so it makes sense to me that the people who, you know, wrote down the stories and retold the stories were also telling stories about Jesus.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that the Bible was ever meant to be taken you know, as the only word, and meant to be, what do you say, you know, the fundamentalist, you know, sort of view of the Bible is not one that I ascribe to.
I understand what you mean. Yeah, and you say as well that you have also been inspired by Abraham Hicks. Obviously, you know, I translate a lot of their teachings and teach people a lot of what they teach as well all over the world. And you say that you instantly recognized Abraham as truth, and it was life-changing. So would you like to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, I remember seeing Jerry and Esther on the Phil Donahue show, and I would love to get my hands on that. I don't even know when it was. It must have been maybe early to mid 80s, I want to say.
Right. Yeah.
And, you know, it was, Phil Donahue was great. He was always, you know, kind of on the cutting edge of things and not afraid to, you know, explore topics that made some people uncomfortable.
Yeah,
and
yeah, they're a bit controversial.
Right, exactly. I remember, you know, they were talking about channeling, and, you know, that Esther channels this, you know, collective consciousness that calls itself Abraham. And I was just like, yeah, that's true. You know, I mean, it seemed weird to a lot of people at the time, but it made perfect sense to me. I was also, during that time, I was reading some of the early books of Shirley MacLaine. Are you familiar with her, Shirley MacLaine? She's an actress.
Oh, yes. Sorry, yes.
Yeah, and she
had
wrote
curly hair.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. She wrote a couple of books in the early mid-90s about the power of the mind and the soul, and one of them was called Out on a Limb, and then there was another one called Dancing in the Light, or Dancing with the Light. And she talked about being able to place her consciousness in another place. And
like an out-of-body experience?
Yeah, and I've always been able to do that. I can't do it. I have a very busy mind. Monkey brain, very busy mind. So it's hard for me to, you know, sit down and intentionally, you know, travel in that way. But I am able to do that. And so when she, you know, Shirley MacLaine was talking about how she is able to do that, and it just, again, it all rang true to me.
Yes. Yeah. I didn't know she had books. That's amazing.
Yeah. Wow. Check those out. Yeah. She's a fascinating person.
Is she still alive?
Yeah, she is.
Is she? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, and you used to teach Sunday school in your UCC church. Is that what it was called? Your UCC?
Yes. Yeah. United Church of Christ. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And you joked that you weren't great at it because you reluctantly told stories from the Bible.
I did the Bible stories when they made me. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, as I said earlier, the Bible is, you know, it's one piece of scripture, if you will. Yeah. And I think that there are, you know, important stories and lessons in the Bible, definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, the curriculum that I developed was always centered around, you know, Christian values, if you will. I mean, but they're probably the values of, you know, all the major religions.
Yeah.
And I wanted to give kids sort of very concrete ways that they can live their faith, you know, in their daily lives. We did a unit on compassion. You know, what does it mean to be compassionate? And how do we have compassion for other people who are different from us, people who we know and who we don't know. Sometimes having compassion for people we do know is harder than having compassion for people we don't know, right?
When you say a unit, do you mean like a program that you taught them?
Yeah, so we would break up the church school year into different, units, or
Yeah.
the curriculum would be different. Yeah, different units.
Right. Okay.
So we did another unit on hospitality and what it means to be, to open ourselves up, both in terms of, possessions and that kind of thing, whether you're welcoming somebody into your home and serving them tea, but also what it means to really be open and to allow people to enter into relationship with us. So yeah, and kids are so inspiring to me.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a funny story. I had a whole lesson planned on hunger. We were talking about world hunger, and I as I was introducing the lesson, I walked around, the kids sitting in a circle, and I walked around the circle and I handed out goldfish crackers. And one kid would get a handful, and then the next kid might just get 4 or 5, and then I'd skip a kid, and then I so that everybody, the idea was that everybody would sort of start out with a different amount of goldfish crackers. Well, by the time I finished the circle, they were evening it out amongst themselves. And I was just like, okay, there's the lesson.
That's brilliant.
It was amazing. It was amazing. I mean, they know.
What age were they?
Pardon me?
What age were they?
They were probably 5 to 10 or 11.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, there were some pretty, young kids in there, but they instantly recognize that if I have a handful and the kid next to me doesn't have any, that I should share.
Brilliant. That's exactly what you want them to learn, though, isn't it? And which is great, because you don't see that too often, really.
It made for a short lesson because they did it for me. But yeah, I think that kids just know. They know right from wrong, and they know what they know about fairness. And of course, fairness is very important, especially to young children. Things need to be fair. Take turns, and but yeah, I think that yeah, they are.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh no. I was just going to say they're just amazing,
Yes, they are, and especially at that young age.
Yeah.
So I was just going to say, sorry for interrupting, that you have now, it led you to basically set up a non-profit organization, which you've called Kids for a Peaceful Future, which is really exciting. So do you want to tell everyone about this exciting adventure that you've just started to embark on, and what it's about, etc.?
Yeah, I've been in the process of birthing Kids for a Peaceful Future for a number of years now. It came out of the work that I did in church school, but I really wanted it to transcend, the boundaries of a religious institution. So yeah, I've been, over the last 2-3 years, I've been sort of setting up the nonprofit. I got registered last year as a 501c3 nonprofit. And it's a long name, Kids for a Peaceful Future, but it really says, what I need it to say is that, kids will lead us. And I think that, we always say that, this is the generation of the future. These are the futures, right? Well, if we mean that to be true, then, we ought to start listening to them and engaging with them. And so Kids for a Peaceful Future does activities, and we do group gatherings, and I also want to have, an online presence where there are videos and lessons that kids can download, and just little exercises that's all centered around how can we be more peaceful in our daily lives. Because, we sit here and talk about world peace, and it seems like such a, massive undertaking. But it really, if you think about it, it starts with us. It starts in our hearts.
Exactly. Yeah.
And if we can be peaceful in our daily lives and, you know, do work that, you know, furthers peace, then we would have a peaceful world.
Yeah.
I don't see what's hard about that. Yeah. So I'm just getting started in terms of building an online presence. And I did get a grant that I applied for my first grant, and I got it. And then I thought, oh boy, now I really have to do this thing, you know. I've been taking baby steps, but I really, by the end of this year, I want to have some programs in place and you know, a website that is, you know, that the parents can feel good about what their kids are doing on the website and, you know, the media they're interacting with.
Yeah.
And I've also written a children's book that part of what I want to do with the book is what's called Mabel Makes a Friend. And it's about Mabel, who is a turtle, who she lives alone in her habitat. And she's an adult. She's a very calming, kind of patient, you know, presence. And one day she finds that there's this other thing that is like in her space that she's never seen before. It's a creature that, you know, she has like no frame of reference for it, but it's a hedgehog, and her name is Maisie. And so the story is about, you know, how they meet and how Maisie is a young, sort of nervous, anxious little hedgehog, and Mabel, you know, befriends her, welcomes her into her space, says, you know, are you hungry? Can I share my breakfast with you? And yeah, I think that it's without hitting kids over the head with the message. It's just implied that, you know,
compassion and kindness.
Yeah, that's what we do. We welcome people. We don't build walls to keep them out. We welcome people. We share what we have with them. You know, going back to what Jesus taught, right? Like you know, cast off your possessions and share what you have and just make the world a better place.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Fantastic. That sounds really exciting.
It is exciting.
Well, I'd say, you know, I wish you every success with that. I'm sure that it will be fantastic, you know, because it's a really fantastic idea. And, you know, I'm all for making this world a better place, a more peaceful place, a more compassionate, kind, and sharing world, for sure.
And in keeping with, you know, what Abraham teaches is that what we put out, we're going to get back, right? So if we work even in just very simple ways, just opening the door for somebody, or, you know, offering somebody, you know, the seat on the bus or the train or whatever, those actions are really important and immense. And
I actually have a Facebook group on Facebook about it's called Global Random Acts of Kindness. And it's all about kindness, because I teach that through the law of attraction as well, like what you're saying, how big it is, you know, and how important it is to practice in your daily life, to do little random acts of kindness for people, even if it's smiling at somebody, or as you said, opening a door for somebody. So everybody is welcome to join that group. It's a free group on Facebook that I set up with my friend Ambrose. So it's like a kindness family. We post kindness quotes and things like that. And
Right. Oh, that's great. I'll definitely join that. Thanks for mentioning. Yeah. You know, if you think about it, it's very simple. You know?
Absolutely.
Just be kind. You know, just be kind.
Yeah.
And if everybody, you know, were kind, then boy, the world would be a different place, wouldn't it?
Sure would.
Yeah.
So are you looking for people to collaborate with you in this nonprofit organization, or is this something that you're doing?
Absolutely.
I don't really understand nonprofits myself, because I don't even know if we have them here in Ireland. I think it's a very American thing. if I'm honest with you. So I know for you guys, they're a really big thing. So go ahead with what you were going to say, but I just had to explain that.
Absolutely. I mean, I see it as being, right now it's just me saying Kids for a Peaceful Future, and the, activities and whatnot that I do with kids. But I envision collaborating in many ways with many people. Co-creating.
Co-creating
right?
At its best, yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay,
So,
well,
in the United States, a nonprofit, there are different different variations on the nonprofit, but a 501c3 is a very specific, according to the IRS, it's a very specific sort of, intentionally, I'm not out to, make money off of it. You can donate, and everything that I do is, supposed to be in line with my mission, which is just empowering and engaging kids to, be peaceful.
right.
So.
Oh, well done.
Yeah, thank you.
So lastly, you have a spiritual practice that you developed called Prayers and Blessings. And I would love you to share this with
Prayers and Blessings, yeah. So Prayers and Blessings, I guess, is a more spiritual way of looking at it. If you can also look at it, as gratitudes and intentions. It doesn't have to be, prayers and blessings sounds kind of, religious-y. But basically what I do is I have on my desk, I have a bowl that I fill with water, and I have stones. And you pick up a stone and you put it in the water, and you offer a prayer or a blessing. I use it more for, to put myself in a state of gratitude.
Yes.
And it's a physical, it's a very tangible thing to do. But if I start the day with, I have all my stones, out, and throughout the day I'm sort of offering, a prayer here and a blessing here. It's just a really powerful reminder,
yes,
of how I want to be, how I want to live in the world. And I developed Prayers and Blessings when I was teaching church school. We built it into the lesson, part of the time was Prayers and Blessings time. And the kids would, just some of them, you could tell they were like saving it up all week, because I have a really good one. And, some of them were just, I'm praying for Legos, or something like that. But it was really, some of the things that they came up with were just truly profound.
Yeah.
And so Prayers and Blessings.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. Absolutely love that. So where can people get in touch with you if they'd like to get in touch with you about your nonprofit?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. Kids for a Peaceful Future is the name of the page. Also on Instagram. And I have a website that I'm just starting, so don't judge me. But it's Kids
My husband builds websites.
Oh, yeah? Oh, great. Does he work with WordPress? Do you know? WordPress?
My last website was WordPress. The new one is even better. It's Wix. But yeah,
oh, okay.
I'm pimping them out to everybody.
Absolutely. Well, I may be hitting him up for some help.
Yeah. But I just want to clarify for the listeners that your surname is spelled Anikis.
That's right. Anikis. Yes.
Yeah.
And when I first had the idea for Kids for a Peaceful Future, I went out and I bought the domain. For several years I owned the domain and didn't even have a page up, but I owned .org and .com. So it's, as I said, it's a long name, but it says what I mean. So,
exactly. Yes. No, that's fantastic. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Karen, for being my guest here with me today. It's been so lovely having you on the show and sharing your story with us. And I know that you'll be very successful with your new organization.
Thank you, Allie. Such
Thank
a pleasure to meet you and get to talk to you. And then you are doing great work as well.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you. Well, we'll say namaste for now, but thanks again and good afternoon from Ireland.